Story 1. The Unseen Enforcer. In the small town of Ravensbrook, nestled between dense forests and rolling hills, Officer Malcolm Blackwood patrolled the quiet streets with an eerie sense of authority. The townsfolk whispered in hushed tones about the unnerving presence that seemed to accompany him, but none dared to question the man in uniform. Malcolm was known for his cold, unflinching gaze that pierced through the darkest of nights. His tall, imposing figure and stoic demeanor sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned residents. Rumors circulated about the mysterious disappearances of those who crossed his path, but no evidence ever surfaced to link him to the unsettling events. Late one foggy night, the town received a distress call from an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts. The caller spoke in frantic tones, mentioning strange noises and an unsettling presence. Officer Blackwood was the first to respond, his squad car slicing through the thick mist like a ghostly apparition. As he approached the desolate farmhouse, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to dance with malevolence. The creaking floorboards echoed through the empty rooms as Officer Blackwood advanced with deliberate steps. His flashlight flickered intermittently, casting unsettling shadows on the peeling wallpaper. A guttural moan echoed from the darkness, and the temperature plummeted as though the very soul of the house had been disturbed. Officer Blackwood's stern expression remained unchanged, his steely eyes scanning the room. The walls seemed to close in as he ventured deeper into the abandoned dwelling. Suddenly, a figure materialized from the shadows, a spectral silhouette with hollow eyes and a tattered police uniform. It was the ghost of Officer Blackwood's past, a twisted manifestation of his darkest deeds. The specter whispered chilling tales of corruption, abuse of power, and the souls he had claimed in the name of justice. As the ghostly revelations unfolded, the walls seemed to close in tighter, and the ire grew heavier. Officer Blackwood's once unwavering composure began to crack. Shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, and disembodied voices echoed through the haunted halls. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and bend in the presence of the malevolent entity. The horror reached its climax as the ghostly figures of the officer's victims materialized around him, their anguished faces contorted in silent screams. The room pulsed with an otherworldly energy as Officer Blackwood, tormented by his past sins, faced the twisted justice he had long escaped. The next morning, the abandoned farmhouse stood silent once again, as if the night's events were but a spectral memory. Officer Malcolm Blackwood's patrol car was found parked outside, its doors ajar and the engine still running. The townsfolk discovered the empty, lifeless eyes of the abandoned farmhouse staring back at them, a chilling reminder of the horrifying enforcer who had met his own dark fate. To this day, the townspeople speak in hushed tones of the haunted patrol car and the malevolent spirit that lurks in the shadows, a cautionary tale to those who dare to wield power with a corrupt heart. The legend of Officer Malcolm Blackwood lives on, a spectral reminder that true horror may wear a uniform and patrol the very streets meant to be safe. Story 2. The Disappearing Police Officer. In the quiet town of Willow Grove, Officer Lisa Martinez patrolled the streets with an eerie sense of control. People talked quietly about the strange feeling that came with her presence, but no one dared to question her. Officer Martinez had a mysterious air about her, and rumors spread about strange things happening when she was around. Late one night, a scared voice called for help, saying that a loved one had been taken by someone wearing a police uniform. Officer Martinez was the only one on duty, and her patrol car moved through the dark town like a ghost. The cry for help led Officer Martinez to an old warehouse on the edge of town. Inside, it was dark and creepy. The only light came from her flashlight as she walked through the dusty corridors. As she went deeper into the warehouse, it got colder and everything got quiet. The flickering light made strange shapes on the walls, showing weird drawings and symbols. It felt like something unnatural was in the air. A growling noise echoed through the darkness, and Officer Martinez got alert. The warehouse was like a confusing maze, and she felt lost. The air became weird, and the walls seemed to be closing in, making her feel trapped. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadows. It looked like a ghost with empty eyes, wearing a torn police uniform, just like Officer Martinez. This ghostly figure whispered about bad things Officer Martinez had done and how she had hurt people in the name of her own strange sense of justice. As the ghost talked, Officer Martinez started to lose her grip on reality. The warehouse felt like it was changing, becoming a nightmare where the past and present mixed together. The scariest part happened when Officer Martinez saw the ghostly victims of her actions. They looked sad and angry, accusing her of the bad things she had done when no one was watching. The warehouse shook with their sadness, and Officer Martinez, troubled by her own guilt, faced the strange justice she had avoided for so long. When morning came to Willow Grove, the old warehouse stood silent, holding the secrets of the night. Officer Martinez's patrol car sat outside, empty and still. The town woke up to the scary truth that the police officer who seemed to disappear in the dark had left behind a legacy of fear. Even now, people in Willow Grove talk about the spooky warehouse and the strange things that happened there, warning each other that real fear might wear a police uniform and patrol the very streets meant to be safe. The story of Officer Lisa Martinez lives on as a reminder that some secrets are scarier than we can imagine. Story 3. The Silent Siren. In the quiet village of Whispering Pines, Officer Sarah Collins patrolled the serene streets with an uncanny sense of authority. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the mysterious air that surrounded her, but no one dared to question the woman in uniform. Officer Collins had an unsettling presence, and rumors spread about strange happenings whenever she was near. One moonlit night, a frightened voice called for help, claiming that a family member had vanished after encountering Officer Collins. She was the only one on duty that night, her police car gliding through the peaceful village like a shadow. The distress call led Officer Collins to an abandoned mansion at the outskirts of Whispering Pines. The old building loomed like a forgotten relic, its windows shattered and ivy creeping up the decaying walls. The air inside felt heavy as Officer Collins cautiously stepped into the eerie silence, guided only by the pale glow of her flashlight. As she ventured deeper into the mansion, the atmosphere grew colder, and a strange stillness settled in. The flickering light revealed faded portraits and dusty furniture, creating a sense of desolation that sent shivers down Officer Collins's spine. A haunting melody, faint but distinct, echoed through the empty halls. It was the sound of a siren song, a mournful tune that seemed to tug at the edges of reality. Officer Collins pressed on, the melody leading her further into the heart of the dilapidated mansion. In a dimly lit room, the melody reached a haunting crescendo, and the air shimmered with an otherworldly energy. A spectral figure materialized, an ethereal siren with hollow eyes and a ghostly presence. The spectral siren whispered tales of dark secrets, abuse of power, and the souls that had vanished in Officer Collins' wake. As the ghostly revelations unfolded, Officer Collins' stoic facade began to crumble, and the boundaries between the living and the supernatural blurred. The mansion transformed into a surreal dreamscape, where the sins of the past and the present intertwined in a dance of shadows. The climax of horror unfolded as Officer Collins confronted the ghostly victims of her actions. Their silent gazes bore into her conscience, accusing her of the wrongs committed under the cover of darkness. The mansion quivered with the collective sorrow of the forgotten, and Officer Collins, haunted by her own transgressions, faced a spectral justice she could no longer escape. With the first light of dawn, the abandoned mansion stood silent, a relic of the night's horrors. Officer Collins's police car remained parked outside, its engine silent and its windows reflecting the morning light. The villagers awoke to the unsettling truth that the police officer who patrolled their peaceful streets had left behind a legacy of dread. To this day, the people of Whispering Pines speak in hushed tones about the haunted mansion and the chilling melody that lingers in the air, a cautionary tale that true terror may wear a uniform and patrol the very village meant to be a haven. The legend of Officer Sarah Collins lives on, a spectral reminder that some nightmares are born from the secrets we bury in the depths of our souls.